Captain Hujin stood at the window of the Horizon Dawn's bridge, watching the strange lights dance across space. The lights weren't like anything he had seen in his 15 years of space exploration. They pulsed with a soft blue glow, almost like a heartbeat. "Captain, these energy readings are unlike anything in our database," said Du Young, looking up from his science station. His fingers moved quickly across the floating screens, analyzing the unusual patterns. They seem to be some kind of electromagnetic waves, but they're structured. Too structured to be natural. Hajin nodded slowly. The Horizon Dawn had been mapping this edge of human space for 3 months. They weren't supposed to find anything interesting here. All their maps showed this area was empty. Could it be a malfunction? He asked. May Ray, the ship's first contact specialist, shook her head. Her long black hair was tied back neatly as she studied the readings. "No, Captain. 3 different systems are picking up the same thing. Something's out there, and it's trying to communicate." The bridge crew fell silent. Humanity had met other alien species before, but not like this. Not out here in the empty space that other races had marked as uninhabitable. "Take us closer," Heijin ordered, "but keep our shields up." As the Horizon Dawn moved forward, the lights grew stronger. Then, through the darkness of space, they saw it, a solar system with a dying star. The star's light was dim and red, like a candle about to go out. But around one of its planets, thousands of structures floated in space, all connected by beams of light. "It's a civilization," Du Young whispered, his eyes wide. "They've built their entire world in space because their planet is dying." The ship's computers started beeping rapidly. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Mayray called out. "But it's different. They're not using standard communication channels. They're using the electromagnetic waves themselves to carry the message." Hajin straightened his blue uniform. "Can you decode it?" Mayray worked quickly at her station. "Yes, I think. Yes, it's translating now." A voice filled the bridge, speaking in a strange melody of sounds that the ship's computer turned into words. "To the approaching vessel. We are the Nail. We ask for no help, as we know it will be refused. We only request that you do not attack. We have seen enough violence." The sadness in the voice made Heijin's chest tight. He looked at Mayray. "What do they mean? We know it will be refused." Mayray did more scans, her face growing serious. "Captain, I'm picking up signs of advanced technology, but also, there's something strange about their biology. Their entire species produces a natural electromagnetic field. It's probably why they can communicate this way, but..." She paused, checking her readings again. "It would also interfere with most ships' faster-than-light drives and communication systems. That's why this area is marked as uninhabitable," Du Young realized. "Other species can't operate their technology properly here, so instead of helping them, they left them to die with their star." Hajin finished, his voice hard. He pressed the button to respond to the transmission. "This is Captain Hajin of the Earth vessel Horizon Dawn. We receive your message, and we do not intend any harm. In fact, we would like to help." There was a long silence. When the voice came back, it was shaking. "You would help us, despite what we are." Heijin looked at his crew, seeing the determination in their eyes. Then he smiled and spoke again. "On Earth, we have a saying. A person's character is shown not by how they're born, but by what they choose to do. We choose to help. Will you let us try?" The lights around the ship pulsed brighter, and for the first time, they could hear hope in the alien voice. "We accept, Captain Hojin of Earth. We accept." The Horizon Dawn moved closer to the dying star system, its hull gleaming in the red light. None of the crew knew exactly how they would help these people, but they knew they had to try. Because that's what humans did. They found a way, no matter what. Du Young sat in the ship's laboratory, studying the holographic images of the Nail. They were tall beings with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer with tiny sparks of electricity. Their eyes were large and completely black, like pools of dark water. But what fascinated him most was the gentle blue glow that surrounded each of them. Their electromagnetic field is part of their nervous system, he explained to Captain Hejin, pointing to his readings. It's as natural to them as breathing is to us. They use it to feel the world around them, to communicate, even to show emotions. Mayray sat nearby, surrounded by floating screens filled with Nail language patterns. Their whole culture is built around these fields, she added. Their art, their music, their writing. It's all made of electromagnetic patterns. It's beautiful, really, like painting with starlight. Hejin watched as more data came in from their scans of the Nail city. Then why would anyone want to hurt them? An older Nail named Suho, who had been helping them understand his people, stepped forward. His silver skin flickered with sad purple patterns. It happened 500 years ago, he said, his voice translated by the ship's computers. Our ancestors discovered they could use their fields as weapons. In a war with another species, they turned their gift into something terrible. They won the war, but lost everything else. But that was 500 years ago, Hojin said. Surely people can't still blame you for that. Suho's patterns turned a deeper purple. Fear has a long memory, Captain. After the war, all other species decided we were too dangerous. They built their ships and cities with technology that our fields would disrupt. It was their way of keeping us isolated. Now, even if they wanted to help us escape our dying star, their ships cannot come close to us. Do-young looked up from his work, his eyes bright with an idea. But Earth ships are different, he said. We developed our technology separately. We never designed our systems to keep you out. Mireille nodded excitedly. And look at this, she said, pulling up new data. The Nail have been trying to change. They've spent centuries developing ways to control and dampen their fields. They're not the same people who fought that war. Hejin watched as Suho's patterns changed to a hopeful blue. The captain remembered Earth's own history, how many times humans had fought and hurt each other, but also how they had learned and grown from those mistakes. We understand what it's like to have a difficult past, Hejin told Suho. On Earth, we had many wars too. But we learned that the past doesn't have to control the future. What matters is who you choose to be today. Suho's patterns brightened. Your people are wise, Captain, but there is something you should know. He waved his hand, creating a beautiful pattern of lights that showed their star system. Our star is dying faster than we thought. The other races didn't just abandon us. They took away our deep space engines, saying they were too dangerous in our hands. We can't leave, even if we wanted to. Hejin stood up straighter. Then we'll help you build new engines, ones that work with your fields instead of against them. The other races won't like that, Suho warned. They might turn against Earth too. Let them try, Do-young said firmly. We've faced impossible odds before. It's kind of our specialty. Mayray smiled as she watched Suho's patterns turn to a bright, happy gold. She had studied many alien cultures, but there was something special about this moment. It wasn't just about saving a species. It was about showing the galaxy that change was possible, that old fears could be overcome with understanding and compassion. As they continued their work, none of them knew the challenges that lay ahead. But they did know one thing. Humanity had made its choice. They would stand with the Nail, no matter what the galaxy thought of them. The red star pulsed angrily in the viewing screen of the Horizon Dawn's main conference room. Do-young stood before Captain Hejin and the gathered crew, his face serious as he pointed to the data streams flowing beside the image. The star's core is collapsing faster than we thought, Do-young explained, his voice steady despite the terrible news. When it goes supernova, the explosion will destroy everything in this system. We don't have a year to help the Nail. We have 6 months, maybe less. Hejin felt his stomach tighten. Around the table, he saw his crew members exchange worried looks. Even Mayray, usually calm and collected, gripped her data pad tightly. "How many Nail are there?" He-Jin asked. "About 50,000, Mayray answered. "They've already lost many to the star's radiation. Their shields are failing." Suho stood at the back of the room, his silver skin showing waves of deep red, a sign of fear among his people. "We understand if you must leave us," he said quietly. "The risk to your ship and crew grows each day you stay." He-Jin stood up, walking to the star map. "Leave? We're not going anywhere, but we need help." He turned to his communication officer. "Contact Earth. Tell them everything." The next 3 days were the longest of He-Jin's life. The Horizon Dawn maintained its position near the Nail City, while Earth's leaders debated their request for help. During this time, Du Young and his team worked nonstop to understand how the Nail's electromagnetic fields affected their systems. On the 4th day, the answer came. The ship's main screen lit up with the face of Earth's Space Council leader, Captain He-Jin. The leader began. "What you're asking is unprecedented. To save the Nail, we would need to send a fleet of ships. Each ship would need special shielding to withstand their electromagnetic fields. The cost would be enormous." He-Jin stood straight, his hands clasped behind his back. "With respect, sir, the cost of doing nothing would be higher. We would be letting an entire species die because we were afraid of spending money." The leader's face softened. "I agree. That's why the council has voted yes. We'll send the fleet. But Captain, you should know. The other races are not happy. The Galactic Council has warned us that helping the Nail could result in trade sanctions against Earth." "Let me talk to my crew," He-Jin said. When the screen went dark, he turned to his people. "You all heard. This won't be easy. If anyone wants to request a transfer before things get harder, I'll understand." The room stayed silent. Then Du Young stepped forward. "Captain, the Nail's electromagnetic field disrupts most technology, yes. But that same field could teach us new ways to power our ships, to communicate across space. Sometimes the things we fear most turn out to be gifts we don't yet understand." Mireille nodded. "The Nail have survived here for centuries, adapting their technology to work with their nature instead of against it. Imagine what we could learn from them." One by one, every crew member voiced their support. He-Jin felt pride swell in his chest. This was humanity at its best, facing the unknown with courage and hope. Suho's patterns had changed to bright gold, the color of joy. "Your people continue to surprise us, Captain. No other race has shown such courage." He-Jin smiled. "Well, courage is another human specialty. Now let's figure out how to save your people before that star gives us any more trouble." Outside the ship's windows, the red star continued its angry pulse. But now its light fell on a people who were no longer alone. The race against time had begun, and humanity was determined to win it. Du Young stared at his screen for the 10th hour straight, his eyes burning from lack of sleep. Around him, the science lab of the Horizon Dawn hummed with activity as his team worked to solve their biggest challenge: how to protect Earth's ships from the Nail's electromagnetic fields. "Maybe we're thinking about this wrong," he mumbled, reaching for his 6th cup of coffee. "We keep trying to block their fields. But what if?" His voice trailed off as he remembered something from his studies on Earth. He quickly pulled up files about Earth's oceans, specifically about electric eels and sharks. These creatures used electromagnetic fields to navigate and hunt in the darkest waters. Captain He-Jin to the science lab. He called over the ship's system. "I think I found something." When He-Jin arrived, Du Young was practically bouncing with excitement. "Look at this," he said, pointing to his screen. "On Earth, we have fish that create electromagnetic fields, but we also have fish that can sense these fields without being hurt by them. They don't fight against the electricity, they work with it." He-Jin leaned closer, interested but confused. "How does this help us?" "Our shift shields try to block the Nail's fields completely. That's why they fail. You can't just wall off that much energy. But what if we design them to work like those fish instead? To channel the energy rather than block it? Myray, who had been quietly listening, stepped forward. The Nail do something similar, she said. Their buildings don't block each other's fields. They flow around them, like water around rocks. Do Young nodded eagerly. Exactly. We don't need stronger shields. We need smarter ones. Over the next week, Du Young and his team worked with Nail engineers to test their new idea. They built small shields that didn't block electromagnetic fields but instead guided them around protected areas, just like water flowing around a boat. The first test was with a small probe. They watched nervously as it approached the Nail city. Previous probes had all shut down, their systems overloaded, but this one kept working, its new shields glowing softly as they channeled the electromagnetic energy safely away. It works, Du Young whispered, then louder, it works. The lab erupted in cheers. Even the Nail engineers were glowing bright gold with joy. One of them, a young engineer named Taiho, approached Du Young with wonder in his dark eyes. All this time, Taiho said, his patterns showing amazement, other races tried to find ways to shut us out. But you looked for ways to work with who we are. Why didn't anyone think of this before? He-Jin smiled. Sometimes the best answers come from unexpected places. Who would think that fish from Earth's oceans would help us solve a space problem? The success of the probe was just the beginning. The team quickly began adapting the design for larger shields. They discovered that the channeled energy could even be used to power some ship systems, making them more efficient than before. We need to send these plans to Earth immediately, He-Jin said. The rescue fleet will need these shields, and we don't have much time. As Du Young prepared the technical data for transmission, he noticed something interesting in the test results. The new shields didn't just protect their technology. They actually worked better when interacting with the Nail's fields. It was like the two systems were meant to work together. Maybe that's the real lesson here, he told He-Jin later. The thing that everyone thought was a problem turned out to be an opportunity. We just had to be willing to look at it differently. Outside the lab's window, the angry red star continued its countdown. But now, for the first time, the Nail had real hope. Human innovation, inspired by Earth's oceans and built on understanding rather than fear, had found a way forward where none seemed possible before. The great meeting hall of the Galactic Council glowed with the light of 1,000 stars. Representatives from 30 different species sat in rising circles, like a giant stadium made of light and metal. At the center stood Captain He-Jin, feeling very small but standing tall. The humans have gone too far, said the San representative, a tall being with crystal-like skin. They plan to give advanced ships to the very species that once turned their electromagnetic fields into weapons. This cannot be allowed. He-Jin waited patiently for his turn to speak. Myray stood beside him, ready to help with any translation problems. They had practiced for this moment, knowing it might be their only chance to change minds. Respected members of the council, He-Jin began, his voice clear and strong. 500 years ago, humanity fought terrible wars among ourselves. We created weapons that could destroy entire cities, but we learned from our mistakes. We grew. We changed. Don't the Nail deserve the same chance? A murmur ran through the hall. The Voss representative, an insect-like being, clicked its mandibles. Pretty words, Captain, but the Nail's very nature disrupts our technology. They are incompatible with galactic society. Myray stepped forward. With respect, that's not true anymore. We've found a way to work with their electromagnetic fields instead of against them. In fact, our new shields actually make our ships more efficient. She waved her hand, and a hologram appeared in the center of the hall. It showed the test results from their new shield technology. Many council members leaned forward, suddenly interested. If Earth proceeds with this rescue, warned the Ixan representative, we will have no choice but to impose trade sanctions. Your economy will suffer. He-Jin smiled gently. Yes, we might lose some trade, but we would keep something more important, our humanity. On Earth, we believe that helping others in need is more valuable than any profit. The Voss representative's antennae twitched. And what if the Nail use your ships to take revenge for their isolation? We've spent weeks with the Nail, Hajin answered. They don't want revenge. They want to live in peace. Their children learn about the mistakes of the past so they won't repeat them, just like human children learn about our past wars. Back on the Horizon Dawn, Du Young and the crew watched the council meeting through a live feed. Suho stood with them, his patterns showing swirling colors of worry and hope. Your captain is very brave, Suho said. Few would stand up to the Galactic Council like this. Do Young nodded. He-Jin believes in doing what's right, not what's easy. It's something humans are pretty good at. In the council hall, the debate continued for hours. Some species supported Earth, impressed by their innovative solution. Others remained afraid, their old fears too strong to overcome. Finally, the council made its decision. Earth could proceed with the rescue, but any species that helped them would face the same trade sanctions. He-Jin bowed to the council. We accept your decision. But know this, our doors remain open. Any species that wants to learn about our shield technology, that wants to help build bridges instead of walls, will be welcome on Earth. As He-Jin and Myray left the council hall, they received a message from Earth. Despite the council's threats, 5 other species had secretly contacted Earth, offering to help with the rescue. It seemed humanity wasn't the only ones tired of letting fear make their decisions. The Red Star continued its death spiral, but now there was a race of many peoples working together to save lives. Sometimes, standing up for what's right could change more than just one future. The shipyards above Earth glowed with activity as workers built the rescue fleet. 50 massive ships were under construction, each one large enough to carry 1,000 Nail to safety. Tu Yum watched from a viewing platform as robots attached the new shield generators to the ship's hulls. Each ship needs to be perfect, he told his team. We only get one chance at this rescue. Meanwhile, on the Horizon Dawn, Myray was working with Tahoe and other Nail engineers. They had made an amazing discovery. The Nail's understanding of energy could revolutionize Earth's power systems. Your electromagnetic fields aren't just a way to communicate, Myray said, watching as Tahoe demonstrated their technology. They're a whole new way to think about energy. Tahoe nodded, his patterns glowing with excitement. We learned long ago that energy flows like water. Your shields showed us we were right. Now let us show you what else we know. The Nail revealed their energy manipulation technology. They could shape electromagnetic fields into tools, into engines, even into bridges between ships. What other species saw as a problem, they had turned into their greatest strength. Back on Earth, Captain He-Jin met with the leaders of the 5 alien species who had offered to help. They came in secret to avoid the Galactic Council's anger. Each brought their own knowledge and resources to the rescue mission. We watched how Earth stood up to the Council, said the leader of the Krell, a species that looked like tall, blue-skinned humans. It made us remember when our own people faced hardship. Others helped us then. Now it's our turn to help. The rescue plan took shape. The 50 Earth ships would form the core of the fleet. Ships from the other 5 species would guard them from any who might try to stop the rescue. They had 4 months left before the star went supernova. He-Jin returned to the Horizon Dawn with good news. The first rescue ships will arrive in 3 weeks, he told the gathered Nail leaders. But we need to start preparing your people now. Each person can only bring what they can carry. Suho's patterns showed a mix of sadness and hope. We will leave behind the homes of our ancestors, but we will carry their memory with us. Thanks to Earth, our children will have a chance to make new homes. The Nail began teaching their children about Earth, about the oceans that inspired their salvation, about the humans who saw past their differences. In return, they shared their knowledge freely with Earth's scientists. Your people could have ignored us, Tahoe told Mira one day. could have left us to our fate like the others did. Instead, you risked everything to help us. Why? Mayray thought about her answer carefully. On Earth, we have a saying, "There but for the grace of God go I." It means anyone could find themselves in trouble, needing help. Today we help you. Tomorrow, you might help us. That's how we all grow stronger. As the days passed, the dying star grew more unstable. But now, when the Nail looked up at its angry red light, they saw hope instead of doom. Humanity had not only offered them rescue, they had offered them respect, treating them not as dangerous outcasts, but as equals with valuable gifts to share. The greatest test still lay ahead, but the foundation of trust they had built would prove stronger than any shield technology. The day of evacuation arrived with the red star burning angrier than ever. 50 Earth ships hung in space around the Nail city, their new shields glowing softly as they channeled the electromagnetic fields. Behind them, ships from the 5 allied species formed a protective ring. Captain He Jin stood on the Horizon Dawn's bridge, watching as the first groups of Nail began boarding the rescue ships. Each family carried a small bag of belongings, their patterns showing a mix of fear and hope as they stepped into their new future. First wave of ships is at 60% capacity, Du Young reported from his station. Shield systems are working perfectly. Then the star pulsed violently, sending out a wave of burning radiation. Warning alarms blared across all ships. Mayray's fingers flew across her console as she read the incoming data. "The star is becoming unstable faster than we predicted," she said, her voice tense. "We don't have months anymore. We might have days." He Jin hit the fleet-wide communication button. "All ships, this is Captain He Jin. We need to speed up the evacuation. Maximum safe capacity on all vessels." The loading of ships continued at a faster pace. The Nail moved with careful order despite their fear. Parents carried small children whose patterns flickered with confusion and worry. Elderly Nail were helped along by younger ones, their silver skin dimmed with age, but still showing brave patterns. Then trouble struck. One of the rescue ship's shields began to flicker. "Shield failure on the Star Hope," Du Young called out. "Their system is overloading." The Star Hope carried 800 Nail. If its shields failed completely, the passengers' electromagnetic fields would shut down all the ship's systems. They would be trapped as the star died. Without hesitation, 3 Nail engineers on the Star Hope rushed to the shield generators. Their patterns showed determined gold as they pressed their hands against the machinery. They were using their own electromagnetic fields to stabilize the failing shields. "They can't hold it for long," Taiho said from his position beside Du Young. "The effort will exhaust them." He Jin made a quick decision. "Horizon Dawn will dock with Star Hope. We'll transfer their passengers to other ships." The rescue took 2 tense hours. The 3 Nail engineers held the shield stable, even as their patterns grew weaker and weaker. When the last passenger was safe, they collapsed, their patterns barely visible. Human medical teams rushed to help the exhausted engineers. One of them, barely conscious, reached out to touch the hand of a human doctor. "We had to save them," he whispered, "just as you saved us." The star pulsed again, stronger this time. Pieces of the Nail city began breaking apart. "All ships report ready for departure," Mayray announced. "Every Nail is aboard safely." He Jin looked at the city one last time. For centuries, it had been a prison for the Nail. Now it would become a memory, but one that taught an important lesson about courage and change. "All ships, prepare for faster-than-light jump," he ordered. "Take us home." The fleet of ships turned away from the dying star, their shields glowing brighter as they prepared to jump. The Nail engineers recovered quickly, their patterns returning to full strength. They had risked everything to save their people, showing that the heart of a hero could beat in any form. As the ships jumped to safety, the red star faded behind them. But the light of hope, kindled by humanity's courage and fed by the Nail's sacrifice, burned stronger than any star. The red planet Mars shone like a jewel in the morning sunlight. After 6 months of careful preparation, the surface of Mars had changed. Huge domes made of special materials that worked with electromagnetic fields now covered large areas of the planet. Inside these domes, the first Nail city was taking shape. Do Young stood with Tai-Ho inside the largest dome, watching as human and Nail workers built homes and gardens together. The dome's walls glowed with soft blue light, powered by the combined energy of Earth's technology and Nail electromagnetic fields. "Your people have done so much for us," Tai-Ho said, his patterns showing bright gold happiness. "You gave us not just a place to live, but a chance to be ourselves." The design of the new city was different from anything seen before. The buildings were made to work with the Nail's electromagnetic fields, not against them. Parks and open spaces allowed families to share their emotional patterns freely. Schools were built where young Nail could learn alongside human children through special communication systems. Mireille visited one of these schools, watching as a Nail teacher named Jai-Yun showed a group of human and Nail children how to create beautiful patterns with their hands. The human children used special gloves that could make electromagnetic patterns, allowing them to speak in the Nail way. "Look, I made a butterfly," a young human girl said excitedly, as her gloves created a delicate pattern of lights. Jai-Yun's patterns sparkled with joy. "Very good. Now who can tell me how to say friendship in patterns?" Captain He-Jin stood in the Mars Control Center with Suho, looking at screens showing the growing city. Reports came in from all over the settlement. Power systems working perfectly, food gardens growing well, and most importantly, people working together in harmony. "The other races are starting to notice," He-Jin told Suho. "3 more species have asked to send observers. They want to learn about our combined technology." Suho's patterns showed thoughtful blue swirls. "Fear kept us apart for 500 years. But your people's courage brought us together. Now others are learning that different doesn't mean dangerous." In the science labs beneath the domes, human and Nail scientists made exciting discoveries. The Nail's understanding of electromagnetic fields helped humans develop better ways to communicate across space. Human creativity helped the Nail find new ways to use their natural abilities. But the most important changes were happening in the streets and homes of the new city. Human children played with Nail children, learning each other's ways without fear. Families shared meals together, finding ways to celebrate their differences instead of fearing them. One evening, as Mars moons rose in the purple sky, He-Jin found Du Young looking at the city through the dome's clear walls. "Thinking deep thoughts?" He-Jin asked. Du Young smiled. "I was just remembering how this all started. We found a dying star and a people everyone else had given up on. Now look at what we've built together." Outside the dome, the Martian wind blew red dust across the planet's surface. But inside, in homes lit by the combined light of human technology and Nail energy, 2 species were proving that the greatest power in the universe wasn't in weapons or shields. It was in the courage to reach out and help others, even when everyone else said it was impossible. 5 years had passed since the Great Rescue. The Galactic Council chamber looked very different now. Where once there had been fear and suspicion, now there was curiosity and hope. Captain He-Jin, older but still standing tall, addressed the council once again. "5 years ago, you told us we were making a mistake," he said, looking around at the gathered representatives. "Today, I invite you to visit Mars and see what that mistake has created." The images he showed made many council members lean forward in surprise. The Martian domes had grown into a vast network of cities. Inside them, humans and Nail lived and worked together. Their combined technology had solved problems that had troubled the galaxy for centuries. Du Young, now the head of the Combined Sciences Division, stepped forward to explain. "The same electromagnetic fields that once caused fear have helped us develop new ways to power our ships. Our combined fleet can travel faster and more efficiently than ever before." Myre, who had become Earth's chief ambassador, added her voice. But the real change isn't in our technology. It's in how we see each other. The Nail taught us that what seems different or dangerous might actually be a gift we don't yet understand. The council listened as they explained how the success on Mars had started a chain reaction across the galaxy. Other isolated species, ones that had been feared or misunderstood, were now being reached out to. The 5 species that had helped with the rescue had formed a new alliance with Earth and the Nail, focused on understanding rather than fear. In the Mars Dome cities, Suho walked with Tahoe through a new garden, where Earth plants grew alongside special energy flowers created by the Nail. Children played nearby, their laughter mixing with the soft hum of electromagnetic fields. "Sometimes I wonder what our ancestors would think," Tahoe said, his patterns showing peaceful blue waves. "They used our fields as weapons, but look what we've created instead." Suho watched as a human child helped a young male learn to shape Earth-style letters in the air with electromagnetic patterns. They would learn the same lesson we did, that strength comes in many forms. The humans showed us that true power isn't in weapons or shields, but in the courage to trust and help others. Back in the council chamber, a vote was being taken. The trade sanctions against Earth were being lifted. More importantly, new laws were being passed to protect and help other species who were different, inspired by what had happened on Mars. The humans took a chance on us when no one else would, a Nail representative told the council. They showed us that the past doesn't have to control the future. Now we all have the chance to build something better together. That evening, as the sun set on Mars, Ho-Jin stood with Du Young and Myre in the observation dome. The Martian sky had turned purple and gold, and the lights of the city below sparkled like stars. "Did you ever think, when we first found the dying star, that we would end up here?" Myre asked. Ho-Jin smiled. "I think the best adventures are the ones you don't expect. We set out to save one species, but we ended up changing the whole galaxy." "And ourselves," Du Young added. "We learned that the greatest discoveries happen when we stop letting fear tell us what's impossible." Below them, in the growing city, humans and Nail continued to build their future together. Their story had become a legend in the galaxy, told to remind people that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in pushing others away, but in having the courage to welcome them home.